I'm Donny Adair, guest host this afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce and to interview Teressa Raiford. Teressa, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, Donny. Thank
Teressa
you.
is running for position number 2 on the Multnomah County Commission. Very important position to us, Teressa. And so we look forward to hearing what you can share with us today about your candidacy and how you would contribute in that particular role.
Absolutely.
I want to start out by acknowledging that you ran for office not too long ago, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I ran back in 2012.
And what office was it for at that
It
time?
was for city commissioner. I was running against Amanda Fritz and Mary Nolan at the time.
Okay, was
So,
that your first experience in running?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I had worked with the county and the community so much, and the leadership that advised me to work within the government system was Mayor Adams. So I figured, okay, well, maybe I need to work with the next mayor, and maybe I need to sit on a seat on the city council so that we can get some things going. But what I learned in that race and also within the last couple of years is that most of the issues that I was working with hands-on were really issues that were happening right there in the county, and their service-oriented outreach is more of what I need in order to be hands-on with what I do in our community.
Well, give our viewers a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I'm a native Portlander.
That's two of us.
Right on. My parents were both born here in Portland, Oregon. My grandfather on my mom's side was born here. He grew up in Southwest Portland, was, a part of the Navy. His dad was part of the 1st Police Auxiliary Force. On my dad's side, his mom and dad owned businesses here, and a lot of people know about the Possum incident
Right,
on
which was
Martin
just
Luther
blocks
King.
from here.
Yeah, March 1981 here in our city, which kind of, pushed a movement that got us, basically starting to stand up for our rights. Not to say that the communities of color or those that were, in the high poverty areas weren't already standing for themselves, but that's kind of a spark
It
that
was a lightning
pushed
rod.
the movement for my generation. Absolutely. Something I really remember and I respect, and just the history of it, and I use it to help stay motivated.
Okay. And in terms of your career path, you've been
Oh,
pretty much self-employed?
absolutely. Well, I worked for Bank of America. I worked for TXU Energy, which was a deregulated energy market out there in Dallas, Texas, doing mergers and acquisitions. I also worked with Conway Logistics, and what I learned in all those companies as far as dealing with finance and customers and regulations was that there's a blueprint for every business, every corporate entity that people go by in order to create efficiencies for their business. Those are multi-million-dollar companies, and they ran efficiently. And so being involved with those type of companies and then starting my own business, doing business development with my business partner who's a CPA, I realized that I was given skills that would take me anywhere.
Okay, all right.
So, across the line of all the different industries we worked with, coming home and having background in nonprofits and background in for-profits and even grassroots organizations, I knew how to develop better, more efficient relationships for
Okay.
them. And so that's kind of what I've been bringing back to the community.
Well, let me ask you, why are you running for Multnomah County Commission position number 2 at this time?
Well, District 2 is in my neighborhood. The positions aren't set up the same way they are in City
And
Council.
that's north and northeast?
Northeast, yeah. St. John's all the way far out to northeast 181st in that area. And so, again, that's a big section of our community. It's a community where most of my family lives, where a lot of the people that I grew up with live, and where there's a lot of poverty and a lot of disproportionality and a lot of... it's a lack of communication and engagement. And I think that those things coming from somebody that lives in those communities could help level the playing field in Multnomah County. The numbers don't lie. We have a lot of ineffective leadership within that district. So,
Okay. Well, you talk about that. One of the questions I'll move up that I had formulated for you was, what is your assessment of how the Multnomah County Commission has performed over the last few years?
well, I would say that numbers don't lie. In the last 10 to 15 years, our education system, the numbers are dropping. We have the hungriest children. Like I said, our rates of poverty are, almost to the national levels when we talk about a county as big or as small as Multnomah in the state of Oregon. And so I don't think that we're where we need to be, and I don't even think that we're on the way there unless we start engaging with our community. Right now, what I've learned over the last 4 years from a business or an analytical standpoint is that we do have a lot of funding coming in. We have a lot of great intentions, but we're not focusing on resolution building. And so without implementing strategies that will change the numbers and make them more positive in regards to our education system and our poverty and our health system and even our safety for our seniors, I don't see us getting any better. So it's time for new leadership.
But what does Multnomah County do to influence education, issues like educational achievement?
Well, I think that because we have so many teachers that live in our district and we have so many children with health issues, we have a lot of families that have poverty and, let's say, community health issues within the family structures, that's where we need to lean our service and our support. And we need to be a little bit more tighter and aware of where we can help get the families where they need to be. Everybody knows a hungry child is not going to do good in school.
Okay.
So
Great. Let's discuss what you believe are the most important issues facing the county now and in the future. And I kind of want to look at it in 3 segments. First of all, what are the most important current issues? And then I'll ask you to talk about issues facing the county over the next 2 to 4 years, and then long term, say 5 to 25 years, because government has to look way out to the future and try to prepare for changes that are projected in the area of service. So start with current issues. What are the most important current issues facing the county right now?
Well, currently, and I'll say it because of my background and what got me interested in politics in the first place. I became familiar with Multnomah County's relationship to District 2 as far as leadership when Barbara Wheeler was the District 2 commissioner. And what she was doing was she was organizing community members to offset the youth violence that was happening in our community. And right now there's a Rob Ingram Summit that's coming up, and they're dealing with youth and the crime and the poverty that we call community health issue. So in my mind, that is one of our biggest issues. Even with our public safety, the mental health people are the ones that are most affected by it. We have a lot of people that are living on the streets, and of course there's a lot of homeless people that are dying that we don't report on all the time, but that's a big issue here, and including suicide. I mean, I'm a gun rights I believe in gun rights, but right now we have a lot of issues, and me and you have touched it a little bit with children committing suicide. I think that we have more youth that are committing suicide by gun than there are youth that are actually out here committing crimes against each other with them. And so we have to start looking at those things. They might not be that it's sensational, but it's actually happening in our county. And I think that there's things that we need to focus on to prevent that. So I think the public health is one of the biggest issues.
Okay, other current issues?
Well, the public health, of course, jobs.
Jobs, yes.
Which, I mean, I was at a forum the other night, and people were asking about, what's going to happen when our children come out of jail, or when the adults that were children come out of jail and they're trying to compete in the workforce here. And there is no competition, even for the ones that aren't going to jail, because we have an influx of people that are moving here to our city and within this county, and they're competitive on a global market for work and for the jobs that we have to offer. The children that are graduating through our public school system aren't. The ones that are coming out of jail, a lot of times they have that criminal history that's keeping them out of the workforce.
Well, and statistics are deceiving. I know in just looking at the county website, even this morning, it listed unemployment at 7.1%, but you're talking about populations where unemployment is, numbers are very disparate.
Absolutely.
It may be 20%
and it
among
may be higher.
people of color, immigrants, and also terribly high with people who may have been involved with the criminal justice system.
Absolutely. There's a serious disproportionate number there. And, being in business development, working with CPAs, admiring the work that is done on a grassroots level, I think that the only solution for a lot of those people will come through STEM technology and some of the things that I fight for, science, technology, engineering, and math, because that's the basis of opportunity. My great-grandfather used to tell people, you better learn a trade. You need to learn how to plumb, or you need to do carpentry or something like that, so that you could be your own boss. And I see that as something that would probably help not only our youth, but some of the people that are out here dealing with poverty on a level where education isn't an option.
Yeah, and you testified about
Oh.
the Benson High School. Did you
Oh,
not
absolutely,
recently?
absolutely. I went on a tour with Rob Johns over there, who's the Benson High School alumni, and I mean the classrooms there, they're doing wonderful work. The children are excited. They're the managers of those classrooms. They're winning, national awards, and that program is right here in our city. But that program is also capped, because we have programs that we're saying are necessary for our children that are in poverty, but they're not helping them graduate.
Okay.
And I see that type of system as something that would be more functional for us. But again, we need courageous leadership to stand up and say that that's what it is, you know.
Before I ask you to talk a little bit more about issues facing the community, 2 to 4 years and 5 to 25 years, I want to remind our viewers that you're watching Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Donny Adair, guest host for Bruce Broussard, and I'm talking with Teressa Raiford, who's running for position number 2 on the Multnomah County Commission. Yes. So Teressa, tell us about issues facing the community over just the next few years, say 2 to 4 years.
Well, recently we've heard a lot about development, and one of the things that I realized is that there's really no local outreach to our seniors and some of the people that own homes in our community that will probably become locations for future development. We have a lot of millennials that are coming out of our foster care system, that are graduating out of our high school system, that will probably need to find homes. And so I'm thinking that along those lines, we need to converge on some planning. We need to start planning for communities that aren't going to be living within their homes. They're not going to be able to find it easy to get jobs. And so we need to start working on affordable housing. We need to start making sure that the development that we bring into our city is bringing in jobs. In forms of public safety. Some of the seniors, we have a lot of baby boomers that are retiring, and
I'm one.
You see, and I'm not going to call you an old man or anything like that, but I catch the bus, I catch TriMet, and I'm walking down streets that don't even have sidewalks, and you're walking through ditches and things of that sort. So with family dynamics
economic
changing,
development definitely has a relationship to gentrification, for example, does it not?
Absolutely, but if you're on the inside of that and you're a leader and you're wanting to bring that opportunity out to the people that live in the community outside of just the interests of the businesses, then they can become a part of that solution as well. If you're developing, why aren't those development jobs going into these communities? Why aren't we going into those communities to make sure that the schools are bringing out those type of workforce millennials? And so that's, that type of hands-on relationship with our community is what I want to bring into our Multnomah County Commission, because it's needed.
Look out long term. Get your crystal ball out and look out 25 years. And what is the information that you read and know about telling you the county needs to be doing to prepare for long-term issues?
Well, I know that right now we're working on our Portland plan. We're looking at our bridges being reinforced and some of them reconstructed.
Counties play a major part in the bridges across the Willamette River.
Absolutely, and we also play a major part in making sure that all contractors have access to associating their businesses with that type of development. But I've been talking to a lot of contractors and people that do that type of work, and they're finding it hard to get bonded. They'll start projects, or they might not even go to receive the opportunity to start the projects because of these type of issues with not knowing the rules of engagement, or they don't have a infrastructure that's sustainable to receive these type of opportunities. So again, I think that's where the county can come in and be that service provider, or at least be that partner and leverage, and talk to some of these banks or these different organizations and make sure that they have the information they need to be able to be competitive in that market, because we're going to be growing. Portland's growing. We want more sidewalks. We want more bike lanes. We want, infrastructure as far as, there's a lot of earthquakes that have been happening in California. So we need to be ready for emergency preparedness, but we also have a lot of buildings that we want to keep. They just passed some new type of legislation. I don't know if that's what I want to call it, But local people can now invest in keeping our historical buildings. Well, they're still going to have to be retrofit for earthquakes and for different types of issues we're having with our weather. We just had a mudslide right up the street in Washington State that,
Yes.
you know, has taken lives, and we're still on a death count with that. So we have to start making sure
County
we have a
has to
great
be ready.
foundation. We have to make sure people are ready, that, you know, they're prepared for these changes. But we also want everybody to take ownership in building that structure.
What about the demographic changes that have been projected? And of course, I guess this week there were articles in local periodicals looking at last year's data of the influx of residents to Portland, Multnomah County area, and how many immigrants
Yes,
were
I
a
saw
part of
that.
that. Yeah. So looking out, you know, long term, what do you think the county might have to do to prepare and deal with that change in demographics?
Well, I think what we have to start with again is our health, because if that many people are coming here and we're already fighting for the jobs that are here, we're going to have to make sure that we don't create another homeless issue, because everybody's not going to get the jobs that we have available now. We have to start, you know, allowing development to happen. We have to start making sure that everybody is qualified to take part in that, because what we're doing is we have two cities in one district. We have people that are doing very well to do, and then we have people that are going down as far as their level of poverty and opportunity. And so at some point we have to start thinking about maintenance. You know, how do we maintain what we have so that we can adequately accept what we are going to receive? And I think I read that same article. It said about 2,300 people out of
Yes.
the 3,200 or something like that
Were
moved in were
immigrants.
immigrants. And if they move here and they're already having issues with language and cultural relationships, we don't want them to have to be homeless alongside the homeless people that we have here already. So
Let me ask you to just think about this from a personal / professional point of view, and I want to ask you, what's the first thing you would do if you're elected to the Multnomah County Commission position number 2?
Establish town halls. We need engagement from the community. We
Okay.
need those voices to back us up as leaders. A lot of what I saw when I first got involved in politics, and just from the standpoint of being civically engaged, was that a leader can tell me at any point, even after elected, well, there's nothing I can do about that, or I can't get all that done. But what I learned is that once the people have their voice on the record, once we're there standing side by side with the people we elect, to get things done, our voices being on the record, us being engaged, it makes a difference. So I would like to immediately establish town halls. I wrote down a little proposal where I want to do them once a month, and just get our community members and call them stakeholders instead of the ones we select, and let them get their voices on the record based on an agenda that has to do with policy and infrastructure. So
You've talked about education. You've talked about economic development. We haven't talked much about justice / police community relations type issues. And I know you've been involved in that. And I was interested in what can you do with those issues or to contribute to solutions in those areas from a county commission position.
well, you work very closely to the police. The police department, Multnomah County Health Department, all those people are sitting at the table when we talk about gangs. You go to the gang task force meetings, you have so many different heads of agencies, so many different managers, and the majority of them have on Multnomah County badges. So what I think that we need to do...
probation and parole.
You got everybody has the mountain on their jacket.
System,
and you see why I'm running for that seat. But everybody has that interest vested into their job description, but I don't know if we're doing enough outreach. We have a lot of homeless people that the first people or the first responders to what they need is the police. I think that needs to be our community health outreach workers. I think instead of being in the malls and basically what we call profiling, because we know there's a lot of that happening, but without being so aggressive to the people that are living in society, basically shopping, going to school, and all those things. We need to find out what's happening with the brother that's out there on the street. Is he a veteran? Is there a service provider that I can find for him that'll take care of his health needs? What's happening with this family that's out here on the street? What kind of services do we have in the county that can help them get out of poverty? I think we need to readjust some of our outreach so that it's more personable and more supportive to the people that are out there that are most vulnerable.
Okay. Talk a little bit about health services and healthcare reform. There's a connection there and a role for the county. Am I right?
Absolutely, because right now we're doing a lot of our health reform through our policing. If you look at the numbers, I read an article the other day that said, oh, now we have the Affordable Health Care Act, so we can help provide services to inmates. Why not start getting those services to them before we have to call them inmates?
Right,
you know?
right.
And so that's why I think those things have a lot to do with one another. But I've worked, with community members directly that are dealing with the methadone clinics. They're dealing with that for pain management.
Okay.
It's outside of the hospital. How do you never use heroin in your life? Have a child, get a back injury, and then go to methadone and become an addict downtown, which in turn, a lot of these people are losing their children. They're going right into the system because of our management system and how we do our referrals. So I think a lot of that needs to be looked at. We need to identify what relationships are a risk to our public health, and then in regards to our public safety, because, if you're turning, into an addict because you're using methadone for pain management, you're more likely going to start committing crimes.
Okay.
And that's what I've seen myself personally out there. So
What about one service that's really important to us through the county, and that's library services?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm going to be at the library in St. John's tomorrow, actually reading a book that I co-authored along with a lot of other fabulous people called Where the Roses Smell the Best.
Okay.
And one of my first jobs was at Multnomah County Library over there on
All
Killingsworth.
right. So you're definitely a library services supporter.
Absolutely. Everybody in my family is a bookworm, and I think that that's something that is underutilized. I think that our libraries are going to become public forums for community action. We might need to use the libraries as our locations for our town halls.
Okay.
But I think that that's a fun, informative place to start finding resolutions.
So you want to continue strong
Oh, absolutely.
fiscal support for the libraries and so
absolutely.
forth. What about talk really in our closing moments here, and I want to remind our viewers that this is Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Donny Adair, guest host for Bruce Broussard, and we're talking with candidate Teressa Raiford for Multnomah County Commission position number 2. And in the few minutes that we have left, talk a little bit about small business and what the county could and should be doing to promote small business.
Oh, absolutely. Well, quite recently I was invited to a panel event by Ping Sutherland, and I think she's the president of the Asian Commerce. And what I see with our small businesses is they do need a lot more exposure, but a lot of them do need education. There's a lack of accounting support. A lot of people are looking for funding. I think that what we might need to do is provide resources in that field of as far as providing education and certain types of credits and opportunities to small businesses that are going to be able to do well as partners with the county, and providing jobs or resources like internships, or just basically being more affectionate with us as far as what we want to do with what the community needs. The city is looking at those big, large, global corporate relationships coming in. I think the county needs to look at what are our assets that we have here. Right now we have an arts tax that everybody has to pay into.
Right.
And I agree with how it's being worked out. I looked at some of the things the other day, and I was happy to see it. I didn't see the numbers the way that I thought that they were until I read this article. But what I've learned is that a lot of our art community will benefit from that. Recently, We've had shows that have been shut down on hip hop artists and things of that sort. And I'm letting them know that if they set up their companies, you know, you might be a rapper or you might be a comedian like your son is, but if you set yourself up as a company and you get an accountant and you're going out there and you're working with these arts organizations, receiving the type of funding that they have, that becomes a stability. It becomes an income that is actually your business. It's no longer a hobby.
That we're got about a minute left, and I want to give you an opportunity to just tell us any bits of information that we may have missed out from our questions that you think is important for the viewers for Oregon Voters Digest to hear.
Okay, well, I was going to say that we have a campaign headquarters at 5257 Northeast Martin Luther King, Suite 202E. I'm always there, so I'm open for people to come and ask questions. We have a website, www.Teressa for Multnomah. That's TeressaForMultnomah.com. And just, you know, contact us, have questions, you know, ask us the questions, come to some of the forums, become civic minded, register to vote so that you can vote in this
Definitely
campaign.
register to vote.
Absolutely. You have to be registered in order to
Especially
cast your
you
ballot.
kids.
Oh, absolutely.
The youngsters.
Your voices do
you know?
matter. I know that because I put mine on the record and I see the change, and I know we can do more.
Right. Well, thank you very much for coming on and talking with us on Voters Digest today. Appreciate Bruce Broussard providing this opportunity for me to interview you and get your message out. I'm Donny Adair. This has been a wonderful opportunity to share and come back and host Oregon Voters Digest, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Donny.